The Galactic Naval Academy's Advanced Combat Theory classroom had never been so quiet. The walls shimmered with holographic maps of past battles, crimson lines for Zephyrian fleets, blue arcs for Altarian maneuvers, golden circles for defensive strongholds. Usually the students argued loudly, debating maneuvers or showing off their species' inherited combat wisdom. Today, however, all voices fell silent. Because a human had walked into the room. Professor Velnara, her 8 tentacles twitching against the lectern, tried to pretend this was normal. For 30 cycles, she had taught cadets from across the spiral arm. Crystalline Altarians, scaled Saurians, even the volatile Voltarian twins whose bodies crackled with bioelectric power. But she had never seen a Terran in her classroom. Terra, the Death World. The cursed blue planet where storms stronger than orbital bombardments swept the seas, where every plant dripped poison, where predators stalked from cradle to grave. Even in the Academy's most elite halls, the word human carried a chill. And now one sat in the back row, legs stretched, posture loose, as if this place belonged to him. Cadet Adnan. He was leaner than most expected, not the hulking brute of propaganda broadcasts. His dark eyes moved lazily over the holographic battlefields, not straining, not sweating, just watching. His uniform was regulation gray, though it looked as if he wore it more for formality than respect. In his hands, a small communication device glowed faintly. He typed, paused, smiled at some message from home, then slipped the device back into his pocket without looking up. To most of the class, that smile was more terrifying than a weapon. The Altarian twins in the front row shifted uncomfortably, their crystalline skin flashing from blue to a deep purple of agitation. The Saurians flicked forked tongues into the air, tasting the strange pheromones of this mammal. A Voltarian muttered under his breath, sparks dancing at his fingertips. Professor Velnara's voice wavered as she continued her lecture. The key to surviving multi-front engagements, she said, is maintaining situational awareness while allocating resources across multiple. A soft chime interrupted her. She seized on it with relief. Perfect timing. Today we conduct a surprise simulation. Groups of 5 form up quickly. Chairs scraped. Crystalline limbs clinked together as cadets scrambled to form squads. In moments, teams clustered across the hall, whispering strategies and glancing at the holographic battlefield that now shifted into a blank grid awaiting their commands. All except one. Adnan remained in his seat, calm, almost bored. He pulled the device out again, typed something, and chuckled quietly. The shadows of 4 cadets fell across him. Zix and Nox, the Altarian twins. Vel, the Voltarian whose hands still crackled faintly. And Krath, a scaled Saurii warrior with a tail strong enough to snap alloy beams. They stood like predators circling prey. "Looks like the Deathworlder doesn't have a team," Zix said, his crystalline voice vibrating with contempt. "Unfortunate," Nox added. "Maybe he's scared." "I heard humans are all talk," Vel sneered. "Dangerous planet, yes, but primitive mammals all the same." Krath's tongue flicked across his teeth. "Professor said groups of 5, you'll participate whether you like it or not, as our target." The rest of the classroom fell back, forming a wide ring around them. Nobody wanted to stand too close when things got ugly. Adnan looked up from his device, expression unchanged. "I'm good, thanks. Professor said groups of 5, not that everyone had to play." The 4 exchanged grins, harmonics of cruel laughter echoing in the chamber. "Oh, you're playing," Krath hissed. Vel lunged first. It was a mistake that would haunt him forever. His 6-fingered hand crackled with blue-white electricity as it shot toward Adnan's chest. The human's head tilted a fraction. The strike hissed past harmlessly. In the same instant, Adnan's hand rose and tapped Vel's wrist, just a flick, gentle as a teacher correcting posture. "Crack!" Vel screamed as his bioelectric organs spasmed, sending sparks across his body. He collapsed, twitching violently on the floor. The classroom froze. Zix charged, crystalline fists shimmering with kinetic energy. He was faster than lightning. Adnan was faster still. His elbow slammed into the Altarian's chest. Shards flew as crystal plates shattered, and Zix folded around the blow with a grunt of disbelief. Krath roared and whipped his heavy tail in a wide arc, strong enough to pulverize stone. Adnan's legs bent, then he leapt. For a moment he seemed weightless, catching the tail mid-swing. With terrifying ease, he spun Krath in a wide circle and released. The sorry eye crashed through 3 rows of desks and slammed into the wall with a dull thud. Knox, seeing his twin broken, shrieked. His body glowed as kinetic energy built within, humming like a star about to collapse. A single blast could level the room. Adnan stepped once, twice, then his boot struck the nerve cluster at Knox's neck. The glow died instantly. Knox fell like a puppet with its strings cut. Silence. The fight had lasted 7.3 seconds. Adnan brushed dust from his sleeve, walked back to his chair, and retrieved his device. His thumbs danced across the screen. "Space school's fine," he typed to his friend back home. "Made some new friends, they're taking a nap now, infirmary's pretty efficient." The professor's tentacles trembled against the lectern. In 30 years, she had never seen 4 advanced cadets neutralized so completely. "Cadet Adnan," she managed. "Yes, Professor," he asked politely. "Next week, would you demonstrate restraint techniques for the class?" He shrugged. "Sure. Should I bring my own training dummies, or will volunteers be provided?" The remaining students exchanged horrified glances. Several began frantically adjusting their course selections. For the first time in centuries, the Academy realized its curriculum might not be enough. They had trained warriors for generations. But this human, this Deathworlder, had reminded them that war was not a subject to be studied safely from behind a desk. War lived in his blood. And he had just walked into class. The infirmary lights still flickered from the energy surge that had carried Vel through its doors. The medics had worked quickly, patching fractures, stabilizing organs, and sealing crystal cracks with bioresin. By dawn, all 4 cadets were alive, though bruised in more than body. Their reputations, once unshakable, had been crushed in front of an entire classroom. The story spread faster than plasma fire through the Academy's halls. The Deathworlder took them all down. 7 seconds. He didn't even stand up properly. By the time morning training commenced, every species had heard. Crystalline twins whispered in metallic harmonics, Saurians hissed among themselves, and Voltarian sparks flared in nervous bursts. Some cadets avoided eye contact with Adnan altogether. Others stared openly, curiosity mingled with fear. Adnan ignored them. He walked through the corridors like a man on an ordinary commute, hands in his pockets, eyes distant. To him, this place was a school. To the others, it was the heart of military tradition. And tradition had been humiliated. The quiet observer. In the back of the refectory, beneath a cluster of glowing fungal lanterns, a slender figure watched him. Naira, an Elari cadet. Her translucent wings shimmered faintly when she moved, casting pale blue light across her plate. She was no warrior. Her people specialized in strategy, logistics, and the science of war rather than its brutal execution. But her mind was sharp, her memory flawless, and she had a dangerous habit of curiosity. She had studied the human since he arrived. Unlike the others, she saw not just the violence but the restraint. He hadn't killed, he could have. That, to her, was more frightening than the broken bones and fractured pride. As Adnan carried his tray past her table, she spoke softly. "You don't enjoy it, do you?" He paused, one brow raised. "Enjoy what?" "The fighting, the stares, the fear." Adnan studied her for a moment. Most would expect a clever retort or a cold dismissal. Instead, he gave a small smile. "I prefer quiet and coffee. Sadly, both are rare here." He moved on, finding an empty table by the viewport. Outside, the Academy's orbit revealed the planet below, a green and gold sphere wreathed in constant storms. Lightning flickered across its surface like veins of light. Naira's wings shifted restlessly. She felt the weight of something larger beginning to stir. Whispers in the council. Elsewhere, behind sealed alloy doors, the Academy's administrative board convened. Professor Velnara stood before them, her tentacles pressed tightly against her sides. "You've seen the report," she said. 4 cadets neutralized in less than 8 seconds. This is unprecedented." The Chancellor, a towering crystalline Altarian named Threx, leaned forward. "And you propose what, Professor? Expel the human." Velnara hesitated. "No, I propose we prepare. His abilities are beyond our current doctrine, if one human can do this." Threx slammed a crystalline fist against the table. "They are primitive mammals. Their world is a hazard, yes, but their technology is centuries behind ours. Surely this is exaggeration." A Voltarian counselor sparked angrily. Exaggeration? Vel is my nephew. His hands are still bandaged. The footage is clear. This Terran fights like no species we've trained before. Silence followed. Each counselor remembered the footage. 110 speed still barely captured the movements. No wasted motion, no hesitation, precision born of something beyond training. Velnara's voice trembled. What concerns me most is not his strength. It is his calm. He does not fear them. He does not fear us. The Chancellor's crystalline eyes narrowed. Then perhaps he should. Letters from home. That night Adnan lay on the narrow cadet bunk, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the station's life support was steady, almost soothing. In his hand, the small device glowed faintly. A new message from Nihil, his childhood friend on Terra. "How's space school, hotshot? I heard you made friends." He chuckled, typing back slowly. "They started it. I finished it. Trying to keep things low-key, but apparently that's impossible here." Another message pinged seconds later. "Adnan, be careful. The galaxy already thinks humans are dangerous. Don't give them a reason to prove it true." He stared at the words for a long moment. Then he set the device aside and closed his eyes. But sleep did not come easily. He could still see Nox's glowing body, seconds from detonating enough energy to kill dozens. If he had miscalculated by even a fraction, half the classroom might have been ash. And he wasn't sure anyone else had realized that. The challenge. 2 days later, the Academy auditorium filled with cadets for the next simulation exercise. The holographic field stretched wide, projecting a barren desert landscape studded with ruined fortresses. Professor Velnara explained the scenario. 2 factions, one defending strongholds, one attacking, teams of 5. This is a test of coordination, not brute force. Eyes turned toward Adnan. Before he could move, the Chancellor's crystalline voice boomed through the hall. "This time," Threx announced, "the human will not be left alone. He will lead one of the teams. We will see what Terra, Deathworlders, are truly worth." Gasps rippled through the room. To place him in command was not just unusual. It was an insult to centuries of Academy hierarchy. Adnan rose slowly, meeting Threx's gaze without flinching. "Fine, but I pick my team." The Chancellor's eyes glittered. "Very well, choose wisely." Adnan scanned the hall. Dozens of cadets stared back, some eager, some terrified. Then his gaze settled on the only one who had spoken to him without hostility. "You," he said, nodding to Naira, "with me." Her wings twitched, startled, but she rose. 3 more cadets stepped forward hesitantly. A Sauri medic named Varric, a silent Christian with eyes like polished stone, and a nervous Voltarian technician. They formed a strange, fragile group, nothing like the polished squadrons around them. The Chancellor's grin was cruel. "Excellent, begin." The desert battlefield shimmered to life around them. Heat rippled in the air, the taste of dust sharp on the tongue. Towers rose like jagged teeth against the horizon. Across the simulation field, an opposing team advanced in perfect formation, their weapons gleaming. Naira's voice whispered in Adnan's ear. "They'll crush us. That's half the Academy over there." Adnan smiled faintly, eyes scanning the battlefield. "Then let's give them something they've never seen." The desert heat pressed down like a living thing. The Academy's holographic projectors were sophisticated enough to replicate every detail: the sting of sand in the wind, the shimmer of mirage light across dunes, even the parched taste of dust on the tongue. Cadets shifted nervously in the simulated sun, already sweating. Adnan did not sweat. He crouched, running the dry grains through his fingers as if studying the language of the land itself. His team stood behind him, uneasy. Naira's wings twitched in the heat. Varric hissed irritably. The crystalline cadet made faint, grinding sounds, and the Voltarian technician sparked every few seconds like a frayed power line. Across the field, the enemy formation gleamed. 5 of the Academy's finest cadets, armor bright, weapons calibrated, shields perfectly aligned. They moved like a single organism, decades of doctrine flowing in every step. "We can't win," Varric muttered, scales rippling with stress. "They're too organized." Adnan glanced over his shoulder. His dark eyes were calm, almost amused. "That's their weakness." Naira frowned. "Organization is a weakness." "Out there, sure, in here," he jerked his head at the desert. "Watch." Breaking the formation. The simulation bell chimed. The enemy began advancing, slow and steady, shields raised in a gleaming wall. Every textbook said this was unbreakable. Adnan didn't move his team forward. He crouched lower, fingers sifting the sand. Then he gestured, "Kick it." "What?" Naira blinked. "The sand, kick it hard." Confused, the cadets obeyed. 4 boots and 1 crystalline foot smashed into the dunes, sending plumes of dust swirling into the hot wind. Adnan added his own force, scooping and hurling handfuls high into the air. Within seconds, a curtain of grit rose before them. The advancing squad slowed. Sensors flickered, struggling against the storm of particles. Shields dimmed, optics clouded. Naira gasped, "You blinded them." "Not yet," Adnan's voice was sharp. "Now spread wide, don't bunch, let them guess where we are." The cadets hesitated. Every instinct screamed to stay in formation, to cling to each other against the oncoming storm. "Do it," Adnan barked. They obeyed. The predator's path. Through the dust, the enemy's commander shouted orders. Beams of plasma lanced out blindly, carving the dunes. One passed so close to Naira, she felt the air sear against her wings. "Keep moving," Adnan said calmly. He had vanished into the haze like smoke, his footsteps silent. Then came the first strike. A cadet on the enemy flank screamed as his shield shattered. He fell, weapon disabled. The others wheeled toward the noise, too late. Another hit. A leg swept, a throat chopped, the sound of crystals splintering. Naira caught only fragments through the haze, a blur of movement, a flash of shadow, the unmistakable crunch of impact. Adnan was everywhere and nowhere, hitting, vanishing, striking again before anyone could track him. One by one, the gleaming squad collapsed into the sand. The moment of silence. When the dust finally settled, only Adnan stood tall. His team emerged, wide-eyed, coughing, but untouched. At his feet, the opposing cadets lay scattered, disarmed, bruised, groaning in disbelief. None were dead, none even seriously harmed, but all had been beaten. The auditorium fell silent. Hundreds of cadets who had been watching through overhead projectors sat frozen. Naira's voice trembled. You use the sand, the environment, that's not in any of our doctrines." Adnan wiped grit from his sleeve. "That's the problem with doctrine. It assumes the enemy follows the same book." He turned to the Chancellor's podium, meeting Threx's crystalline gaze. "You wanted to see what a Deathworlder could do. Now you've seen it." Ripples. The Chancellor's crystalline skin pulsed deep purple, a mix of fury and unease. "This is not proper warfare. This is trickery." Adnan shrugged. "Call it what you like. On Terra we call it survival." The hall erupted in whispers. Survival. The word carried weight. For cadets raised on fleets and doctrine, survival was a theory, something learned from history. For humans, it was daily life. Professor Velnara's tentacles trembled against her lectern. She had wanted the council to take humans seriously. Now she feared they might. Naira glanced at Adnan, her heart pounding. She saw the truth others didn't. He hadn't wanted this. He had adapted only because they forced him to, and if forced again, how far would he go? In the shadows, that night long after curfew, the council chamber glowed with harsh light. "This cannot stand," Chancellor Threx growled. "One Terran humiliates our finest squads and the cadets cheer him like a hero if word spreads beyond these halls." "It already has," hissed the Voltarian counselor. "Messages travel faster than fleets. Every academy across the quadrant is buzzing. They speak of the Deathworlder like a legend." A sorry-eyed counselor's tongue flicked nervously. "Perhaps legend is useful. Imagine directing such fury against our enemies." "No," Threx snapped. "Humans are too dangerous. If one cadet can disrupt centuries of doctrine, imagine what a fleet of them could do. We must control this before they control us." In the corner, Professor Velnara spoke quietly. "You can't cage survival. If you try, it will break free." Threx's crystalline eyes burned. "Then perhaps we should end it before it begins." A message. Meanwhile, in the cadet dormitory, Adnan leaned against the viewport, watching storms roll across the planet below. His device pinged softly. Another message from Nihil. "Heard you made headlines. Half the academies are gossiping about the Desert Phantom. Careful, Adnan. They don't like what they can't control." Adnan typed back, fingers slow, deliberate. "They'll get used to it, or they won't. Either way, I'm not here for their approval." Naira's voice startled him from behind. You're playing a dangerous game. He turned. She stood in the doorway, wings folded close. Her eyes were sharp, filled with both fear and fascination. Adnan smiled faintly. I didn't come here to play games. Then why are you here? She pressed. For a moment he said nothing. His gaze drifted back to the stormy planet. Finally he answered, because something coming, and when it does, this galaxy won't be ready. The alarms hadn't stopped wailing for more than 30 seconds when the first reports came in. Holomaps flickered to life across the Academy's command center. Red blips appeared at the far edge of the system. 13 ships, not Academy vessels, moving fast, almost too fast for standard detection. Adnan stood in the center of the command room, fingers steepled. He could feel the vibrations of the facility beneath his boots, faint but steady, a warning pulse. Varric hissed beside him. 13, that's impossible. We have patrols. We would have detected them hours ago. Not if they're Shadow-class vessels, Adnan replied, voice low. They're using cloak disruptors. Nothing conventional will see them until they're here. Naira's wings flexed nervously. They wouldn't attack without warning. What are they? Adnan's gaze swept over the holomap, scanning trajectories. His mind worked in patterns that only someone who had survived the Deathworlds could see. Who doesn't care about warning? Who wants chaos? The preparation. In a flash, the Academy transformed from a learning environment to a war machine. Cadets scrambled to stations. Weapons hummed to life. Shields rose across the compound. Even the simulations that had been training grounds a week ago now felt painfully real. Adnan's team moved as a unit, slipping past panicked students to the strategic interface. He tapped into the system with fingers that moved like lightning. Get me every tactical readout, every possible weak point, he demanded. I don't care about protocol. We fight smart or we die like rookies. The instructors protested. Adnan, you're... I don't care what I am. I care about what's coming. Naira hesitated. You can't control them all. I don't need to control all of them, just the ones that count, he snapped, then softened. Trust me. First contact. Moments later, the blips on the holomap resolved into shapes, ships unlike any the cadets had seen. Sleek, black, angular edges that seemed to cut light itself. They hovered at the system's fringe, and the field readings confirmed the worst. No shields, but weapons calibrated to melt through Academy armor in seconds. Chancellor Threx's crystalline form pulsed violently. Do you understand? They could destroy this Academy in minutes. We must evacuate. Adnan shook his head. Evacuation is surrender, and surrender gets you killed twice, once by them and once by the Council for being cowards. The first volley struck seconds later. Energy beams carved the upper wing of the Academy, sending debris flying. Cadets screamed, some scrambling for cover, others frozen in disbelief. Adnan leapt forward, dodging a falling support beam, and grabbed Naira's arm. Move. They ran through the chaos, his eyes scanning every opening, every weak point. Through the smoke, he spotted his team, Varric, Fisa, and a crystalline cadet called Zephyr, already coordinating countermeasures. Use the environment, Adnan shouted over the roar. Again, make them fight on our terms. Improvised tactics. He led them to the Academy's hydroponics dome, a forest of alien flora that could be weaponized. With a few well-placed manipulations, roots and vines shifted, creating barriers, tripping energy sensors, and forcing the invaders' weapons to misfire. Naira's eyes widened. You're using plants. Adnan grinned faintly. Every Deathworlder learns to use what they have. Beams sizzled past them. One struck Zephyr, who screamed as his crystalline skin cracked, sending sparks flying. Varric lunged, shielding him with his own body, claws leaving deep gouges in the deck. Adnan ducked behind a massive plant, then hurled a hydroponic fluid canister into the enemy formation. The explosion erupted, blinding sensors and setting off secondary containment fires. Chaos blossomed, controlled only by Adnan's calm, calculating mind. Hit them where it hurts, he muttered. Not their shields, their headquarters. Discovery. As they fought, Adnan's holopad pinged, a strange reading from the attacker's formation. One vessel, larger than the rest, emitted a pulsing wave. It was scanning, not firing. They're looking for something, Adnan said, brow furrowed. He tapped the display, cross-referencing ship schematics and known alien protocols. And they won't stop until they find it. Naira frowned. What could be that important? Adnan's eyes darkened. Something we already have, something we weren't supposed to survive with. Varric hissed, the artifact, are you serious? It's... Yes, that artifact, Adnan said. And if they get it, the Academy, maybe the whole sector is finished. Split decision. The attackers adjusted formation, converging toward the hydroponics dome. Adnan realized they couldn't defend this position forever. We need to split them, he said. Draw half into the corridors, let me and my team flank the rest. Naira looked at him with wide eyes. You want to divide them? That's insane. Insane keeps me alive, he said, and it keeps us ahead, you trust me, right? She hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yes, I trust you. Adnan's lips curved into the faintest smile. Good, let's move. Into the maze. The team ran through twisting hallways, sensors pinging constantly. Adnan used every corner, every shadow, every reflective surface to mislead the enemy. Their plasma beams tore through walls, leaving molten scars and sparking wires. At each junction, Adnan calculated risk, which route was deadly, which offered cover, which could collapse if necessary. The Deathworlder instinct, survival, adaptation, improvisation guided him. Varric muttered through gritted teeth, I've never seen tactics like this. It's human. Adnan didn't answer, he focused. And then at the far end of the corridor, the largest attacker ship, the one scanning for the artifact, came into view. Its weapons were lined on both sides, aimed directly at the Academy's core storage. Adnan's jaw clenched. We're too late if we don't act now. He turned to his team. Follow my lead. When I give the signal, we take out their command link. One strike, one shot, everything else is chaos. Naira swallowed hard. And if we fail? Adnan's gaze met hers, steady, unflinching. Then we survive anyway, we always survive. The hum grew louder. Not the mechanical kind of hum, but something deep, resonating in the bones, vibrating through the floors and walls of the Academy's core storage. Adnan's pulse matched it, steady, measured, instinctive. He crouched, fingers brushing over the artifact's containment field. It was small, deceptively so, a sphere of shifting colors that looked alive. Every hue pulsed like a heartbeat, echoing rhythms he couldn't name, yet instinctively understood. Varric muttered beside him, claws tapping against the metal deck. It's reacting to what? Adnan didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the wave emanating from the alien ship above. The scanning pulse, the one that had put them all on edge, intensified. Whatever it sought, it had recognized the artifact. Naira's wings twitched. It's calling to them. Or warning them, Adnan said. Either way, we don't have time to debate semantics. A choice. Adnan realized the attacker's pattern now. They weren't attacking blindly. Their energy beams weren't random. They were precise, probing for the artifact's location. Every wall they destroyed, every hall they incinerated was to flush the Academy's defenders out. He turned to the team. We can't let them touch it, not now, not ever, but we can't move it either. The containment field won't survive the transit. Fisa's eyes widened. You mean fight them here? Yes, but we do it smart, not like pawns, like predators. Naira's voice was shaky. Adnan, this is suicide. He looked at her. No, it's calculation. This isn't reckless. We just have to be faster than they expect. And remember, we're human. That counts for more than they know. Varric hissed, shifting from foot to foot. I don't understand why you trust the human way. It's madness. Adnan smirked faintly. Madness is survival on the Deathworlds, and right now, that's exactly what we need. The first strike. Adnan assigned positions. Zephyr took the elevated conduits above the storage bay, weapons charged and ready. Fisa manipulated the environment, diverting power to defensive fields and activating traps in the floor. Naira and Varric moved to flank the approaching alien troops. The first wave landed. Shadow-class soldiers descended, their armor black as night, with visors reflecting the chaos around them. They moved with lethal precision, weapons calibrated to disable, not kill, until necessary. Adnan's heart hammered. Every cadet's life was in his hands. Every move mattered. He waited for the exact moment, then gave the signal. Now. Fisa triggered the hydroponic traps. Roots shot out like whips, tangling the first wave. Zephyr unleashed a pulse from the conduits, short-circuiting the attacker's weapons. Naira and Varek struck from the sides, claws and plasma blades cutting clean through armor. The floor became a battlefield. Sparks flew. Smoke rose. The artifact pulsed in response, growing warmer, brighter, almost alive with intent. Adnan ran, leaping over fallen troops, ducking under energy beams. His mind raced. Predict, adapt, strike. The Deathworlder instincts, so long dormant, blazed inside him. The artifact speaks. Suddenly, the artifact reacted violently. A wave of light shot outward, enveloping the storage bay in a blinding glow. The attackers screeched, their armor failing under the resonance. Naira screamed, It's alive." Adnan felt it like a voice in his skull, deep and ancient. Not words, not language, but meaning. Protect, endure, trust. He understood instantly. The artifact wasn't just a weapon. It was a test. A living key designed to recognize intent. Varek, shaken, whispered, "It knows us." Adnan nodded. It knows what humans do best: survive, adapt, and protect those who can't protect themselves. The turning point. The attackers regrouped, more cautious now. One of them, a larger Shadow-class officer, approached the artifact. Its scanning pulse intensified. Adnan's mind snapped into motion. Distraction, mislead, exploit. "Fisa, overload the containment field," he commanded. "Make them think it's unstable." Fisa hesitated, then nodded. Her claws danced across the control panel. Sparks flew as energy redirected through the shields, making the artifact appear unstable, flickering dangerously. The alien officer froze. Its sensors detected the anomaly. It hesitated, giving the humans a split second, a chance that could mean life or death. Adnan didn't waste it. He vaulted forward, using the floor's energy conduits to propel himself, striking the alien officer with a makeshift shock weapon. The impact reverberated, sending a pulse through the enemy ranks. Chaos erupted. The attackers scattered, disoriented and unsure. For the first time, the humans and their allies had the upper hand. Cost of victory. But victory came at a price. Zephyr had fallen, crystalline body shattered. Fisa's energy overload left her immobilized, muscles locked in spasms. Naira's wings were singed, feathers torn. Adnan stood over them, chest heaving. He ignored the pain in his own arm, a gash from the alien officer's weapon, and focused on the artifact. It pulsed calmly now, as if acknowledging their courage. "Is everyone?" he began, but Naira cut him off, her eyes wide. "No, look at the sensors." The holomap revealed new blips. Far beyond the destroyed attackers, more ships were arriving, not Shadow-class, something different. Bigger, slower, and unmistakably sentient. Adnan's stomach sank. Reinforcements, and they're coming for the artifact. Varek hissed, his claws digging into the floor. How many this time? Adnan's jaw clenched, enough to make a war out of a classroom. The academy was no longer a sanctuary. It was a crucible. Smoke curled from shattered walls, alarms blared in discordant tones, and the deep thrum of the artifact resonated through the halls like a war drum. Adnan moved through the chaos, leading the cadets and his allies to defensible positions, heart hammering in sync with the pulsing light of the artifact. "Stay sharp," he barked, voice carrying over the din. "They'll probe for weaknesses, don't give them any." Zephyr had been stabilized by emergency medical bots, but his crystalline form still shimmered weakly under the stress. Fisa had regained partial control over her muscles, though tremors racked her every motion. Naira's wings were soot-blackened, but her resolve remained unbroken. Varek's claws dripped with the ichor of defeated enemies, and yet his amber eyes reflected a mixture of awe and apprehension. Outside the academy, the first of the new ships descended. Unlike the Shadow-class troopers, these vessels were massive, sleek, angular, their hulls engraved with sigils that pulsed faintly in red energy. Sensors revealed their numbers, 15. But more alarming than the count was the energy signature. They were not drones. Each ship housed a command intelligence, a sentient mind directing the attack with precision. Adnan crouched behind a fractured support beam. They're not just attacking, they're strategizing, and they've learned from the first wave. Naira adjusted her scorched wings, eyes narrowing. "Then we adapt faster. Humans survive because we improvise, and we trust each other." Adnan nodded. That trust had carried them this far, and now it would be tested like never before. The first boarding. The first ship's landing pods pierced the outer shields, disgorging armored soldiers. They moved with coordinated precision, deploying scanners to triangulate the artifact's location. Adnan's team split into defensive positions. Fisa activated the environment's defense grid, sending walls to shift, floors to rise, and obstacles to block the intruders' paths. Naira and Varric flanked them, striking from shadows and ceilings alike. The corridors erupted in chaos. Plasma fire lit the walls, sparks raining down as armor was shredded. The attackers were organized, but their confidence faltered under human ingenuity. Adnan's voice echoed in the hall. Don't just fight, mislead them. Make them think the artifact moved when it hasn't. Make them chase ghosts. It worked. The first pod was caught in a trap, energy nets binding the soldiers and electrocuting their weapons. The humans exploited the momentary confusion, striking with brutal precision. But the second pod was already advancing, and this time they were different, taller, faster, with armor that adapted to human attacks. They were learning, evolving. The artifact's call. Amid the fighting, the artifact pulsed violently. Adnan could feel it resonating with his very bones, vibrating through his skull and heart. It was calling, but not for him. It was calling outward, sending a signal that radiated far beyond the academy. Naira's eyes widened. It's communicating. Varric hissed, backing away. To who? Adnan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he focused, feeling the subtle nuances of the pulse. Images and emotions flashed. Worlds devastated, species enslaved, lives erased. And then hope. It's reaching for help, he realized. The artifact isn't just a weapon, it's a beacon. It can call allies. Before anyone could respond, a deep boom shook the academy. One of the massive ships had fired a concentrated energy pulse, breaching the outer wall. Rubble fell around them, and the corridor they had been defending collapsed into a jagged canyon of broken metal and stone. Adnan swore under his breath. They're stronger than we thought. We need reinforcements and fast. Unexpected allies. Then through the haze and debris, a new shape emerged. Small, sleek vessels darted in from above, faster than any human craft. They moved with purpose, weaving between energy beams and debris. The artifact's light seemed to guide them, a beacon through the chaos. They're here, Fisa gasped. Adnan squinted. The ships were alien, unlike anything in the Academy's database. Their pilots, tall, lithe, with translucent wings and glowing eyes, moved with synchronized grace, attacking the invaders with precision. Plasma blasts ripped through the enemy lines, disabling weapons and immobilizing soldiers. Varric's claws dug into the floor. Allies not from here, not from the Academy, they answered the artifact's call. Adnan gritted his teeth, relief mingling with tension. Good, but don't get comfortable. They're outnumbered and these invaders adapt quickly. The new allies pushed the invaders back, but the attackers had learned to coordinate. Their formations shifted, enveloping the academy in a tightening siege. Every corridor, every hall became a trap. Sacrifice. Adnan realized that the only way to protect the artifact and ensure the survival of their allies was a dangerous gamble. He turned to Zephyr, Fisa, Naira, and Varric. I'm going to lure them away from the artifact, he said, voice calm but firm. The Academy can hold for now, but if they get their hands on it. Fisa's claws trembled. Adnan, no, you can't. I have to, he interrupted. I'm the one they'll follow, trust me. Protect the artifact, protect each other. Naira's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Then go and come back. Adnan stepped into the corridor, weapon ready, moving like a phantom through the wreckage. The attackers noticed immediately, converging on him with precision. The chase. He ran, weaving through the halls, using every trick and instinct he had learned on the Deathworlds. He used energy conduits, gravity shifts, and environmental hazards to slow the invaders. The artifact's light pulsed behind him, guiding him forward, strengthening his resolve. The invaders were relentless. Each step he took, they adapted. Every trap he set, they anticipated. But he pressed on, fueled by instinct, training, and the unshakable will to survive. Then he reached a vast chamber, a containment area designed for the Academy's most dangerous specimens. The invaders followed, stepping into a web of defenses Adnan had improvised on the fly. Energy nets, plasma mines, gravitational shifts, all activated. The invaders were caught, struggling, their formations breaking apart under the assault. Adnan pressed on, sprinting toward a maintenance shaft that would allow him to circle around and return to the artifact. But then, The largest of the invaders, the command unit, emerged. It had been silent until now, watching, analyzing. Its eyes glowed red, and a voice resonated, not through sound but telepathy, a direct intrusion into Adnan's mind. "You cannot win, human. Surrender the artifact and we may spare your species." Adnan's chest heaved, sweat stinging his eyes, but he gritted his teeth. "Humans don't surrender," he whispered. "We fight and we protect." The chamber trembled as the command unit advanced, energy crackling along its limbs. Adnan realized that this battle would not be won by cunning alone. This was where human ingenuity, courage, and resilience had to rise above alien perfection. And as he turned back toward the artifact, light pulsing, allies regrouping, and the enemy closing in, he knew the fight was far from over. The Academy's halls were war-torn, smoke and fire mingling with the lingering scent of ozone and scorched metal. Every wall bore the scars of combat. Every corridor echoed with the distant cries of the wounded and the clash of weapons. Yet amidst the chaos, Adnan moved with purpose, heart synchronized with the pulsing light of the artifact. "This ends now," he muttered under his breath, gripping the weapon that had carried him through countless skirmishes. Around him, Zephyr, Fisa, Naira, and Varek prepared for the final confrontation. Their combined will was a fragile, flickering flame against the overwhelming might of the invaders. But together, they were more than any algorithm, any strategy, any cold machine of war. Awakening the artifact. Adnan approached the artifact chamber. The light had grown intense, almost unbearable, resonating through every corner of the academy. He placed his hand on the crystalline surface, feeling its strange warmth. The pulse was no longer a beacon. It was a call to action, responding directly to the courage and unity of the defenders. Zephyr's voice rang out, calm but resolute. "It's listening to us, to our intent. If we act together, it will act." Adnan nodded. "Then we act, all of us." Fisa, still trembling but determined, aligned her energy matrix with the artifact's pulse. Naira spread her charred wings, channeling her remaining energy. Varek's claws hummed as he synchronized with the environmental controls. And Adnan, he focused every ounce of his human ingenuity, his instincts honed by survival, on guiding them all. The artifact responded. Crystalline beams shot through the chamber, forming a web that connected every defender. Their combined energies merged into a singular, radiant force. The pulse was no longer passive. It had become a weapon, a shield, and a signal, all in one. The final assault. Outside, the enemy fleet descended, a swirling storm of precision and malice. The command unit led them, its red eyes glowing with strategic calculation. But it had not anticipated this, the unity of flesh, blood, and will against cold, calculated force. The artifact's pulse surged outward, a wave of energy that rippled across the campus and into the skies. Ships were thrown off course, their adaptive armor destabilized. Soldiers staggered under the psychic resonance, confusion breaking their formation. Adnan led the counterattack. Every move was a blend of strategy and instinct. He anticipated enemy maneuvers, improvised traps on the fly, and used the artifact's pulse to amplify their effects. Fisa manipulated the Academy's defenses, turning hallways into mazes, floors into shifting barricades. Naira struck from above, her plasma strikes precise and lethal. Varek engaged directly, his claws tearing through the invaders, ranks within human strength. Even as they fought, the artifact pulsed with guidance, subtly correcting their mistakes, amplifying their courage, and weaving their disparate actions into a coherent, unstoppable force. Humanity's ingenuity. The command unit advanced, a towering figure of alien perfection. Its voice resonated again in Adnan's mind, a mix of menace and disbelief. "You are inefficient. You cannot possibly succeed." Adnan smiled grimly. "Humans excel at what you cannot calculate: heart, compassion, and adaptability." With a sudden surge, he led a coordinated strike. The artifact's pulse aligned with his intent, focusing through him like a lens. Energy arcs ripped through the command unit's armor, destabilizing its neural matrix. For a moment, the invader hesitated, recalibrating, but it was too late. Adnan's ingenuity, combined with the artifact's power, had found the one weakness the machine could not predict: unpredictability. The command unit fell, crashing into the shattered floor, sparks and energy surging outward. Its fall triggered a cascading collapse of the enemy ranks, the remaining invaders retreating in disarray. Outside, the alien reinforcements that had answered the artifact's call swept in, cutting off fleeing ships and securing the perimeter. The siege of the academy was broken. The cost of victory. The aftermath was quiet, almost eerily so. Smoke and debris hung in the air, mingling with the scent of ionized energy. Adnan surveyed the damage, heart heavy. The academy had survived, but at great cost. Many cadets had fallen. Zephyr's energy form was dimmed, Fisa's limbs trembled, and Naira's wings were irreparably damaged. Varric bore countless wounds, yet all were alive. Adnan knelt beside the artifact, feeling its pulse slow, return to a calm resonance. "You did your part," he whispered, "and so did we." Zephyr approached, voice weak but steady. "We wouldn't have survived without you, human, without your courage, your ingenuity, your willingness to trust us." Adnan shook his head. "No, you all did it together. That's why we survived. That's humanity, our compassion, our adaptability. We fight not just to survive, but to protect, to connect." Fisa nodded, her eyes bright despite the tremor in her body. "And now, the Academy lives, not because of machines, not because of technology, but because of the bond between species, between hearts." A new understanding. In the days that followed, the Academy rebuilt. The artifact was secured, studied not as a weapon, but as a bridge, a tool that had responded to courage, compassion, and cooperation rather than violence alone. Humans, Deathworlders, and all allied species worked side by side, sharing knowledge and skills. Adnan walked through the rebuilt halls with Naira and Varric. Cadets trained under their watchful eyes, learning not only combat but ingenuity, empathy, and trust. "You think they'll come back?" Naira asked quietly, glancing toward the distant stars. Adnan smiled. "Maybe, but next time they'll face not just one species, but all of us, and together there's nothing we can't overcome." Varric's amber eyes gleamed. "Then let them come, we'll be ready." And high above, in the void of space, the artifact pulsed faintly, a reminder of what had been achieved and what was yet possible. Epilogue: The heart of humanity. The Academy had changed. So had Adnan. So had every species that had fought alongside him. What had begun as a desperate defense against impossible odds had become a testament to the power of unity, courage, and ingenuity. Adnan stood before a class of cadets weeks later, the artifact behind him dormant but alive. "Remember this," he said. "Strength isn't in your weapons, your armor, or even your intelligence. Strength is in your heart, your compassion, your willingness to trust and protect. That is what makes humans dangerous. That is what makes us survivors. That is what makes us unstoppable." A young cadet, human and alien alike, raised a hand. "And if they come back?" Adnan's eyes glinted, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Then we remind them what it means to face humanity together." The Academy echoed with applause, hope, and determination. Outside, the stars shone brighter than ever, a universe full of possibilities and a future shaped by courage, compassion, and the indomitable heart of humanity.